Hello and welcome to Speak of the Devils. We're excited to be back after being on a hiatus for 2 years. For me, everything changed in March of 2020 when I was right here in this studio recording a segment for an upcoming episode, which was a parody of Celebrities Try 9 Things They've Never Done Before. After being away for over a year and a half, it feels great to be back.
Tonight, we'll kick things off with a fresh segment of Teen Voice, stories from BHS TV, students about high school and community news. We'll have a fake commercial produced by Nigel Karate, a Mad Lib skit presented by Daniel Nugent, and an update on the Red Devil action, including a player spotlight with Olivia Penya.
That's all upcoming on this edition of Speak of the Devils. Kicking us off today, we have Team Voice with Porch, who is new to Burlington Public Schools this year in a newly created position, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So let's welcome him to the studio.
Well, welcome to Teen Voice. We're looking forward to a lively and engaging discussion on some topics. And so we've got some wonderful students here from the Burlington High School. And so let's get right to it. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Glad that you're all here. So let's just jump right into some conversations about what we consider some hot topics that are happening around us in the greater society as a whole. So one of the topics I'd like us to kind of engage and discuss is social media. So, you know, like from my perspective, I'm a little bit older, and so my generation of people, there are degrees of being involved in using social media. I am somewhat on social media, but not all the time. I have an awareness about what's happening. You know, I do have a Facebook account, I do have a Instagram and a Twitter account, but not like out there, you know, as in the same way that someone your age might be. So I guess the first question I would ask is, what do you think about social media from your own experiences? And just jump in.
Well, for my social media experience, I'll say that I kind of curate it to my own tastes. So I really just use it to talk to my friends and to follow like some accounts that I find interesting that like talk about like different issues in our society.
Okay.
Personally, for me, when discussing social media, what always ends up happening is I think since I'm really not on it, I actually think of just people around me. And what really sucks is a lot of people get sucked in. Especially the worst thing for me is like during school, people are just like on like Instagram or like Snapchat, and I'm like, just do your homework.
Yeah, it would be helpful to do your homework.
I feel like I agree with your statement, and like I'm actually like one of those people that are on it, and that's like I actually.
So you're not doing your homework?
No, I am doing my homework during school, just like during like breaks and stuff. I find myself just like scrolling aimlessly on there, and then it's like hours pass by. But then like I actually deleted Instagram and like TikTok, and I also turned off like Snapchat notifications.
Okay.
Because I feel like a cleanse, I guess.
Wow.
Kind of, but. It's like really hard to like resist the urge to like re-download them again. But like, yeah.
Interesting that you said a cleanse. Wow. What do you think when you hear cleanse?
Juice cleanse.
Spiritual.
Spiritual.
Yeah, I feel like spiritual for sure.
Well, it makes sense. A lot of folks in my generation, again, I want to qualify what I'm saying, think of social media as a place where there's so much negativity, and it's almost like it attracts people in. You know, you, if you're not aware, the social media platforms are data driven, so you know that the data is the driver of the topics that you get pulled into. Were you guys aware of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I loved this idea that you're selective about what you kind of, what you use it for, because it's intentional. And I don't know that that's always the case. Yeah.
I feel like at first social media, like Instagram for example, in 2015, or when it was like new, it was like a fun place to be where people like would just post whatever they wanted. But then like now as it evolved, people like especially teenagers feel the pressure to like post certain things to get the most likes or like compare themselves to their peers who like also post different things. So I think it's just become kind of toxic almost.
I think many might agree with you. Let's move on to topic 2. How about what we have happening here of late? We have some really important cases that have taken place here in the last month or so when we think about social justice, which is a big point of conversation in our community, in our society as a whole, racial, social justice. And so we have 2 prominent cases, one Ahmaud Arbery and the other one Kyle Rittenhouse. Are you familiar with Kyle Rittenhouse? What took place? What's your understanding?
He was like a white, I think 17-year-old, at least at the time, in Kenosha, who I think shot and killed 2 people and then injured another during like the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening over the summer. And then he was recently acquitted of all his charges.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I think it's really sad. I think it's like really just terrible that we have to like listen to this on the news. Like, it's just really bad and really hard to swallow. Yeah.
What do you think?
Especially, yeah, I think it's like definitely racially driven, especially since that he was white. I feel like if it was any other race, like if it was like a black boy, like it would have a different result for sure. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's also frustrating because there was like, you could tell there was a lot of bias in the case. Like the judge wouldn't let anyone refer to the victims as victims. They could only be referred to as rioters. And like the judge claimed you couldn't say victims because that would create bias, as if like saying rioters all the time doesn't have the same effect. Like,
I was gonna say, yeah, I think it's really sad, like, depending on the person, like, some people will just be like, oh, these peaceful protesters are rioters, and then people like brandishing guns on the street, walking around, will be like, oh, these peaceful protesters. And it's just really sad, because it's like you can tell there's a bias, and it like, either you just refer to them as protesters, and there's definitely like a wrong sense and a right sense, and then, or you definitely refer to them all as rioters. And like, if you're gonna say one is the other, then it's just confusing.
Yeah, and so that was one of the big cases. And then the other one was Ahmaud Arbery, who was a black man in Georgia jogging and was detained, or basically held hostage, shot and killed. And so these kind of cases, are you all familiar with the Ahmaud Arbery situation?
yes.
And the 2 cases had outcomes here recently. One, acquittal, Kyle Rittenhouse acquitted, and then the defendants in the Ahmaud Arbery case were found guilty. And so how are you hearing about these cases with your peers, and what do they think? What have you been hearing?
I mean, I don't hear from it from my peers, but I definitely hear from it from my parents. I did hear about the first case from a couple of peers, but I feel like a lot of people are just not watching the news as much, is my thing. Like, I know 2016, 2018, 2020, I was like on the news because there was so much happening. But like now, it's slowed down, but there's still a lot going on. I feel like that might be part of the issue.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think like with me and my friends, we don't consistently talk about this stuff, but like there are definitely moments when we do, and I know that like despite our level of like conversation with each other regarding these situations, that like we all definitely care like about what's like happening in our world.
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely should be talked about more, and it's not being talked about enough. Like, I get daily emails from like the New York Times and CNN, and so I read those, but not much conversation among like my peers, at least.
Interesting. It's fascinating. We could talk about like the mass media as well, because there's a paradigm with mass media. Either you got a lot of leftist mass media, or you have some strong right mass media in terms of conservatives and liberals in this country, and that plays a big part, like where we get information from, who's designing the information. And that leads me to the next topic. So, I think some of the reason some of the noise is getting dialed down is because of COVID. And so, what are your thoughts about what's happening around vaccinated and non-vaccinated situations, scenarios, in schools, in your communities? What do you think? What do you hear? What do your parents think? Your friends? What are your thoughts about?
I mean, just starting off, I think that people who wear their mask down and say, like, I want back a sense of normalcy, like, just get vaccinated. Because, like, again, school, 80% vaccination rate, they might lift the mask mandate. And, like, yeah, so if you want to go back to normal, just get vaccinated. That's the quickest way. I'm guessing once America's to, like, 95, 90, even 90, like, maybe even 80, we're probably just going to get back to, like, it's going to be a different normal, but it's definitely going to be a normal.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it definitely frustrates me to no end when I see like my classmates sneeze and they take down their mask to sneeze, because that is defeating the entire purpose of wearing the mask. And like I definitely think that in terms of what I've heard, like unvaccinated people, not like necessarily in our school, just like across the country, saying like, oh, we're being targeted for not like having vaccines. Like that's not true. You're just I saw like someone else stated that they're just receiving the consequences for their decision, and I think that's the best way to really put it.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I personally feel like the quickest way is to get vaccinated and like to get back to normal. Also wear your masks. Like I see people in school like putting their masks like below their nose, which really like agitates me. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really dumb when people just, like, don't wear their masks.
Yeah.
I think some of that might be tied to like what people believe about being vaccinated too, right?
Yeah.
So not everybody agrees on vaccination, So I think that might be some of what we're seeing in the world.
They could also be scared of like the after effects of being vaccinated. Like you don't know like 10 years after like what effect it can have on your body. So I guess there is some sort of like reasonable.
Yeah, like I do sympathize with people who are sort of afraid of the vaccine and like genuinely like don't really like know about like the impact that the vaccine could have. But I feel like that like if you're in that position, like just try to sort of be open to like the actual facts that are being shared with you, and just like try to learn about it on your own time, and like hopefully that can help answer your questions and alleviate some of your fears.
Well, this is why we spend time talking to our youth, because you bring this pearls of wisdom for us and things for us to think about. And I think a lot of times us adults, we are often reactionary for a variety of reasons: fear, lack of information. And I think everybody's intentions are always what they think is best for themselves. And I think these kind of conversations would be more helpful. The last topic I'd like us to kind of brush on and talk on is how many of you heard about the tree that was the Christmas tree that was lit on fire in New York?
Yeah.
Recently heard of it, yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
I feel like it could be sort of taken as a sign against like Fox News and what they're representing, because I know that like for me personally, when I see Fox News and how they're like spreading so much misinformation, or when they like highlight certain groups in the wrong light and in a stereotyped light, like that is really frustrating that we have this like widely watched source that is just able to do this. However, I don't think lighting a Christmas tree is the best way to get your message across.
I agree with that. Yeah, everything what you said, I was actually going to say, don't light a Christmas tree on fire. That's not the best way to like get your point across, so to speak. I mean, it is just a Christmas tree. Like, if you want to target Fox News, like talk to Fox News or like bring it to the public about Fox News, not a Christmas tree.
What was I going to say? I think that this just gives, like, if they were trying to antagonize someone, then that's just a way to antagonize them, like, really, really easily. Like, just immediately, they're just like, this, like, they could just say, like, somebody put them up to this or something like that. And then just, that's just another, like, match the fire, I guess. It's just, terrible.
Yeah, I wonder about like the antagonist protagonist, in a story. If you think about like a story, sometimes we know what buttons to push, and so it really isn't about like the best way to communicate. Like it's about, okay, start a fire. People pay attention to the fire. Fire, trees on fire. Right? So I think that sometimes people are being strategic, right? They interrupt our thinking with like sensational kind of things. And we talked about with the social media, the negativity, beating the drum of negativity, people like gravitate to that. So now the good gets lost in all the negative.
Yeah, there's definitely like a valid point in doing something sensational to spread your message and bring awareness to it. But if you want people to be receptive to your message, just try to think of a different way to get it across.
Yeah, like maybe just putting an ornament on the tree that says like,
They put a beautiful ornament, a big
Exactly.
shiny bright ornament on the
exactly. That just like gets their message across.
It's
Like,
stop being
because
people.
like here's the thing, like there's a difference between guy lights Fox tree on fire and Fox News takes simple ornament off of tree.
Right, true.
It changes the protagonist antagonist as well in the story.
I feel like if they put like an ornament on it, I feel like it's not as much of a scandal to be put on the news.
Exactly, but like still, like if Fox put it down, they like took it down and just.
How do we change the narrative of bad news traveling way faster than good news? Would you agree that that's the case right now in our society?
Yeah, I feel like people like thrive on like the bad news, and they're like, oh, like this sort of like drama or this happened. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's also social media as well, like cancel culture basically.
Yeah, I'd say just because it's more interesting, especially since like nowadays, what are the big movies, superhero movies that has a protagonist and antagonist? I mean, I'm a big fan of that too, but like, just it's just basic storytelling. So it's like you want somebody who to look up to, you want somebody who to be antagonized. You don't just want guy saved kitten from tree.
Interesting. Interesting.
Like, I think we're just always drawn to like the drama and scandal or whatever comes from the bad news. So like even though we do care about good news, it's like not as interesting, I suppose you could say.
Well, you know what? Our next task is for our next session to come up with really fun, interesting things that we spread the news on. Well, that's about where we are. We're going to wrap it up for this evening's session, Teen Voice. And so I want to thank my guests.
Thank you.
They are
you.
awesome young people, and as you can tell, really, really sharp young people who know a lot about what's happening in our society, in our communities. And until next time, we will see you.
Yay!
Thanks for joining us, Ray. Next up, let's have a look at Veronica's startup dedicated to raising awareness of increased ocean pollution. Recently, she did an interview with BNEWS talking about her GoFundMe project. Let's take a look.
One BHS student is finding a new way to help our ecosystem. I spoke with senior Veronica Chang, who has started a GoFundMe page to raise ocean pollution awareness.
So I first started the page by just looking around the school vicinity, and there's just been a lot of scattered masks everywhere. And most of them actually end up in the ocean, as most wastes do, and 1.56 billion of them actually wound up into the ocean. So that's a massive increase in ocean pollution just in general. And all of those statistics I got from this nonprofit organization called Oceans Asia. And Oceans Asia is basically, they help raise awareness for all crises in the oceans, so ranging from wildlife crimes to just these types of pollutions. So I thought about making a GoFundMe to help them support their beach cleanups, because they're actually doing research and beach cleanups in the Socos Islands.
Show your support for Veronica.
So I've raised so far $1,200 something, and I'm trying to get to 5,000, but that's already a huge achievement. So I have the link to my GoFundMe posted on my Instagram. It's Veronica X Chang. So just click on the link and any amount helps.
From Burlington High School, I'm Robert Parris for BNEWS Weekly.
That seems like a really big project and it's very noble. What inspires you to do it?
Yeah, so I would just like walk around, like being around like Burlington towns and see like a bunch of masks like just scattered like on the sidewalks of like stores and like just everywhere. And most of it actually does end up just like in the ocean. And especially like since like because of COVID, like there's been mass production of these like disposable face masks that do get washed up into the ocean. And it's really detrimental to like all marine lives. So that's what inspired me to create a GoFundMe, and I did partner with the Oceans Asia, as I mentioned.
That's really cool. How did you like start this up? Did you like just start a GoFundMe page and start talking to people, or did you make it into kind of a project with multiple, like besides just Ocean Asia, obviously with a lot of people involved? Like how did you like get this to become like such a big like part of like everything basically?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I made like a video that's like linked to the GoFundMe. So that's kind of like to advertise the GoFundMe. And I wrote like a little intro and just information. And the GoFundMe was pretty like easy to like set up because like there was just like a step-by-step process. And then I just reached out to like my friends and like families to have their support. And everyone was very supportive, as you saw in the numbers. But.
Yeah, wow. So if we stay on this track, how long do you think it would take you to reach the $5,000 goal?
I'd say like if I keep like advertising my fundraiser, I think maybe like a couple months. So but yeah, it's like I really can't say. Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I think it's definitely gonna hit the $5,000
Really?
goal.
Thank
I
you.
do think so. So thank you so much, Veronica. So now we're going to be handing over the floor to Nigel for a completely normal and totally not fake commercial as Matt Salazar runs for president. When we return, we'll have our guests join us here on set.
Hi, I'm Matthew Salazar, but you can just call me Cornelius. Matthew Cornelius Salazar. I believe in change, and with change comes a change in perspective, a change in attitude, a change in sound. And what better sound than what you can find on my mixtape, now only $3.99.
Plus shipping and handling.
These other politicians don't stand a chance against my revolutionary policies, and everyone seems to be playing it safe. Unlike the others, I have been spreading the truth all over the nation.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Now, I'm here to talk about our nation's most pressing issues. And no, I'm not talking about healthcare. I'm not talking about economic inflation. I'm not even talking about rising crime rates. I'm here to promote my new mixtape, only $3.99. Boo! Boo! Now silence. Thank you. If elected, I promise I will unite North and South Dakota into one Super Dakota and remove Florida from all geography. Boo!
The people of the United States of America love me.
Oh, hey.
Hey, you guys are gonna vote for me, right?
What?
You guys gonna vote for me?
Get off the stage, loser. That's right. Keep moving. Keep moving!
And why wouldn't they? Just listen to what some of my most loyal followers have to say.
Pinguino, what do you like about Matthew Salazar?
Me gusta el mixtape de Matthew Cornelius Salazar, solo $3.99 más envío y manejo.
Wow, that's real interesting. You have anything more to say?
No olvide $3.99 más gastos de envío y manipulación para el mix.
Vote for Matthew Cornelius Salazar, 2024. Better ingredients, better president. I'm Matthew Salazar, and I approve of this message.
That was amazing.
On set with us, we have our BHS TV student reporter, Niko, Phloridis, and BNEWS Sports Hub host, Anthony Matos. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
Now we have our first topic that we're going to discuss, cell phone addiction. Most people don't realize how addictive cell phones can be with the addition of many social media platforms. the addition of many social media platforms, people, especially teenagers, can spend hours on end on those devices and not even notice. So what do you guys think about this?
I definitely agree. I think I'm always on my phone, just scrolling bored through Instagram, Twitter, doesn't matter.
Personally, I think it's like a coping mechanism, you know, like you're dealing with stress, you got a big test coming up, it's like, what do I do? Oh, my phone, let me just go in the corner and use it. And you don't know what someone's going through because they could just be sitting on their phone not knowing what to do.
Yeah, it also feels like, I think a lot of people have been talking about how phone use has become so widespread, and it feels like it's just acceptable to use your phone everywhere, including in the classroom. So what do you two think about that?
I have used my phone many times when there's nothing to do in the class, just because I'm bored and I just want to not have to think about work.
Do you use, like you said, you use that as like a coping mechanism? Do you think it's like if you're stressing, but like passively stressing, so you just use that as a distraction?
As a distraction from the big test, yeah.
From the big test?
I feel like a lot of people can relate on that because
Yeah.
no one is just the only one dealing with something. There's other people too.
Yeah.
Especially with just everything going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a break from everything.
But then it's like once you get off, then you realize, oh, I have a test to study for, or like there is back to reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, you still have to realize that just because you're not focusing on the big picture, it's still there, and you still need to work on, you know, like stuff like the test. Just make sure you put that forward.
Well, thank you guys for talking about it. Next up, we're going to talk about something that has become quite problematic in the modern world, which is cancel culture. For those unaware, cancel culture is the mass critique of something someone did in the past or present that is deemed problematic. However, cancel culture isn't just about calling out problematic behavior. It can turn dangerous and lead to harassment, threats, and doxing. Cancel culture has caused much online controversy on whether or not it's too harsh of a punishment. So, what do you guys think about cancel culture?
I do think there are times it can go too far with doxing and harassment. But I do believe that we should hold people accountable for their past actions, but just never take it that far.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you see something, like someone says something bad 6 years ago, it shouldn't be a big thing. Like if the person has changed, the person has changed, you know?
No, as long as they acknowledge it.
As long as they acknowledge it, like, hey, I said this back then, I don't mean it anymore. I have a different perspective, and I've matured from it.
I think like people do like learn from their past mistakes, and I feel like just because of that one mistake, we shouldn't just cancel them and say that, oh, you're a bad person because of it.
Yeah. Any other comments that you guys have about cancel culture?
I think there can be benefits. I definitely think, you know, there are many bad people who are still famous and have these big platforms. And I think it's great that people are trying to knock them down a peg at least and not give them as big of a platform while they are still these horrible people.
So as long as they're not actively sending threats or
Yes.
doxing or anything like that, cancel culture can be beneficial to people who are being detrimental to people just like using their platform.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you have to be like a little harsh and like critique them for them to learn.
Yeah.
But not to the point where there's like threats being made. So I think, but yeah.
All right, well, moving on, our next topic is all about esports. BHS TV caught up with the esports club to take a look about what all the hype is about.
So I had a lot of students that were interested in video games. I guess probably about 2 years ago, I guess there's some serious thought to actually having an esports club where we would meet. I would bring consoles that I had, or other students would bring consoles they had, and then we just meet periodically and have a club. And so we do have some students that participate officially, either like in a state league, or they'll participate in tournaments where they actually will play students from, I guess, around the country. And some of the things we do, so obviously we have club meetings. So I have the programming club that I'm also an advisor for. So we meet every 2 weeks in this room, which is Area 123. You know, actual competitions going here. You know, maybe we could have other schools come here and actually have a competition where people would be able to come and watch them play the matches or the games. So it's really a conference room, so it's just like a multi-use room, and we have a bunch of activities going on. You know, really anybody, I think, from the Burlington community can just reserve the room and use it for like a conference or, you know, meetings or what have you. And we have a Rocket League team, which is very good. So we've actually been in the playoffs a couple of times, and some of those guys have actually gone to Assumption College, and they actually played the college level teams and actually beat them in a scrimmage. So we have a pretty decent team. Valorant is another one that's popular right now. There are sports games as well, so it's not just, you know, games that people sort of see as violent, which some of them, you know, frankly are, but it's more, I'll say, the cartoon. Madden is a game that people can play, and NBA 2K, so there are sports games that people can play and participate in as well. Dennis Flano, who's the director of tech integration, probably more his brainchild, and I guess, you know, along with me just kind of talking with him, as I said a few years ago, thought that it would be really neat to have a room that would be sort of like our esports room or arena. We actually sort of did have a Rocket League match, I guess, a few weeks back, and I guess I did invite people to come in. So it was mainly club members that were able to watch the team play. They were at home, but we were watching them on the big screens here, but it was still kind of cool. I mean, I guess the ultimate really cool thing would be if students could actually get a scholarship to play esports, and so that does exist. So there are many colleges now that actually offer a scholarship, just like any other athletic scholarship, to play esports. But I think, you know, for the most part, it's just a place where students can kind of come together. I think it's a more social way for them to kind of get together. And, you know, I think that's the thing that's been really neat for me to see, because during the, well, I guess we're still in the pandemic, but I'll say during the year when we were more remote or hybrid, we really didn't have as many people participating in like the club meetings because we're virtual. But now that we're back together, I can definitely see it's a big difference. Even though, you know, video games are something that you can do without being together in person, I think the students really do like being in person and playing and just kind of, you know, enjoying the games together in person.
Okay, that esports seems like such a great club, and it seems like it's going a lot of places. Do you guys know what esports is?
I hadn't really heard of it until now.
Okay, so esports is basically just like any other sports team, except for they play video games. And it seems like they're going to a lot of tournaments, actually. It seems really fun. I'm very jealous. Yeah, no, it seems like that club has so much stuff going for it. I mean, look at all the equipment they have, right?
Yeah.
No, it's crazy.
Must have taken a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, I know, but it looks like it's definitely paying off. It seems like the students are having a lot of fun. Have you ever had, like, do any of your friends do esports? Do you have any, like, experience with, like, anything in, like, esports?
After you.
I mean, I can't. I don't have many friends who do play video games as a sport.
When you say e-sport, it's like on a computer?
Yeah, like electronic sports.
Yeah, it's electronic. Yeah, it's electronic.
What about like if it's like VR? Like,
I guess
I'm
it's still
sure
it's
that
still
counts.
part of
I'm sure that
electronic.
counts.
Yeah.
Because like like my dad has a VR, so I sometimes play like Beat Sabers on there. So I don't know if that counts.
Yeah. So I just think in general esports is just a very cool club, and you know, hopefully they have great competitions and tournaments and stuff.
Well, our next discussion comes from how the pandemic has affected academic life ever since going back to all in person. This year, many senior privileges have been taken away by the administration, like having access to the couches in the lower library or going to the upper library without a pass. So, what do you guys think about that? First of all, you're a sophomore, right?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
You guys are both sophomores?
Yes.
Okay.
Looks like you're the only senior
Well,
here.
actually, yeah, I'm the only
I'm
senior.
a junior.
So
I mean, as a junior, I'm hoping that this trend doesn't continue, although I understand the safety precautions. But with seniors being, I think, according to the administration, the highest vaccinated class, I do think if it's a seniors only area, they could be a little bit less strict, especially with the couches. Like, you can just let
yeah,
people
like the
sit
couches
down.
in the lower library, like especially since it's like our final year of high school.
Yeah.
Like I think it should only be fair that we should have our privileges that previous seniors have had in the past. So like going to the library, it's really a pain to like ask teachers like for a pass, but yeah, I really wish they would open the lower library.
Yeah, I mean, I think safety is great. It's just these seniors, as yourself, aren't getting the full privileges that they have in past years. And when you're leaving, and it's not always the funnest experience.
Yeah, I agree.
So with that, we want to ask about flex block and advisory. So during flex block on Tuesdays, students had to report to homerooms during that period. But now students have the option to sign up with extra help, enrichments, clubs, and study halls, among other things. So on Thursdays during their flex blocks, students go to their advisory classrooms and talk about school life and communications. So how do you think that's going, especially with, I know the Tuesdays is new, so we haven't really had much experience with that, but advisory, do you think the communications is helping? Do you think that it's being beneficial to the school? What do you think about that?
I think the Tuesdays is 10 times better than homeroom originally. Because people will just sit in homeroom and just do nothing, and now you can sign up for extra help instead of having to go after school when you have plans after school.
I do agree. I think the extra help is great. The fact that you don't have to try to catch a teacher in person or with an email to try to set up at whatever time. I think it's great to have a block that you can get that. But sometimes we're being basically forced to sign up for something, and it's sometimes hard to find something to do when you don't need extra help and you don't want to play games that a teacher is allowing. So it's just a little weird.
I do agree with that. It's kind of like mixed feelings. What about on Thursdays for the advisory? Like, how do you feel? Because I know that the students had a lot of feedback to the administration, but they didn't.
Some that the administration didn't like.
Yeah, they didn't listen. So, but how do we feel about advisory?
Advisory, I don't know. I feel like it's very much like they're holding our hands, being like, this is what communication is, as if we don't
know how to communicate.
Exactly. It's just kind of weird, and it's like, we don't need to be like a child. Like, we're not children. We know communication, and I just don't think it's worth it to sit.
Do you think that during advisory you're learning how to communicate with the other people in your class, or are you just sitting there watching a video?
We're mostly just sitting there watching video, and to be honest, when we did the communication, we had to talk to people, and it wasn't working.
Was it kind of awkward?
Yeah, no, it was just, the conversations weren't great.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I was told it's about building a bond with like a new teacher you don't have. That's like what the point was, and I like that idea. But I think they could have like better activities to support that. Like, one of the activities was you were showing, other people in your group were showing a picture and they had to describe it to you. That was great. They should do more fun activities like that instead of just mindful minutes. Instead of go on your iPad and create music for 15 minutes. Like, no one's gonna create music for 15 minutes.
Yeah, what is it? So some advisories we've heard was like, although we probably do have to wrap this up soon, but some advisories are the teachers are more strict, and other classes say that they don't communicate at all, or the teacher talks to them during the activities. And do you think there needs to be some sort of regulation in place where people know that there's like every couple weeks there should be like something to like show that people are listening, communicating, or should it, like, what do you guys think the future of advisory should be like?
Well, I think it should be like a 4-week check-in period. Like, are you enjoying advisory? Do you have any complaints? What do you like about it? And then maybe you can like switch up your advisory every month.
So you think that we should have advisory less? and not just every Thursday?
Well, every Thursday, but then after like that 4th week in your advisory, you talk with your other group mates. And then after that month, maybe switch it up, new people, so you can build a bond with a new teacher.
Yeah, I think they should switch up the advisory. That actually is really smart.
I do agree with that.
I did hear an idea the other day, actually, during my advisory, that another student brought up, and they said that they wanted advisory to be once a month, and instead of talking about communication, they could talk about the school. But so a quick thought, because we do have to wrap this up soon. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I mean, I do like the idea of more advisory, like, so it's not just like a 1 month thing. I'm not a big fan of that, but I think if we were to make it better, I don't think I just think it's what they're telling us to do during it is the big problem, not the timing.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Well, moving on. Speaking of being in person, the pep rally was back this year, and Niko was there to capture all of the excitement. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Niko Phloridis, and I'm here at the Burlington High School Pep Rally 2021. Let's see what's going to happen. On Thanksgiving Eve, the students at Burlington High School celebrated with a pep rally that was held at Varsity Field.
Oh, well, it was awesome. It was great to get everybody, get the school back together again, after not being able to have the pep rally last year. It's always nice when you can bring all the classes together and have some fun events and really kind of just get after it for a little while and really, get the school spirit going. So it was exciting and fun to watch all the kids, enjoying themselves today, and they were really into the pep rally today, so it was good to see.
Many students came together to participate during a variety of events. This year's pep rally was the first with many students, as it was not held last year due to COVID-19.
It was my first one because I'm a sophomore, and last year we didn't get it, so I was really excited to be able to have one, and I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see a lot of participation throughout all the grades.
Many students showed their enthusiasm by dressing up in colors based on what grade they were in. BHS Athletic Director Sean Hart shared his opinion about the pep rally coming back this year.
Well, again, with COVID last year and losing a lot of things, pep rally being one of them, I think the kids were just excited to have opportunities to come back and do it again. But I think, all in all, I think it was an A+ experience.
The original rivalry between the Burlington Red Devils and the Bedford Buccaneers has returned for Thanksgiving.
I'm just excited that we're renewing an old rivalry. Again, Bedford and Burlington had played for 16 years previously. Then when we joined the Middlesex League and Lexington joined the Middlesex League, we started that rivalry, and kind of rekindling an old flame is not a bad thing all the time. I'm looking forward to the game. With it being the first one, I said our expectations are high and looking forward to it, and just hoping we have a great game.
We're very excited for the opportunity to be out there and compete. We've had a great week and a half of practice. We've played very well the last 3 weeks, and we're ready to bring that with us tomorrow to Thanksgiving and send these seniors off in a blaze of glory.
From Varsity Field, I'm Niko Phloridis for BNEWS Weekly.
Now, let's take a look at the Red Devil action this winter season. We have Anthony Matos, host of BNEWS Sports Hub and our resident student sports reporter / announcer to answer all our questions. This winter season is just underway. How is this year looking compared to the last year during the peak of the pandemic?
This year's looking much better now that we've returned to a full season, but even more importantly, spectators are allowed, which makes a big difference for the athletes.
I bet.
Have the hockey teams competed yet? What can you tell us about the boys and girls varsity teams?
Boys played at the Ice Palace on Wednesday, I believe, and they lost 2-1 to Winchester, and it took overtime. Will McLean scored the only goal, the sophomore, who has a bright future for this team. And girls was, I believe, Thursday too, or Wednesday, and they won.
Speaking of the girls, I heard they're coming back from an undefeated season, and there are a number of Miller Schoolers on the team?
Yes, that team is filled with a number of young athletes who were in the middle school at the time. Those players were Caitlin Tremblay, Elena Sermides, and Ava Coloni, and Faith Steiner. They're all freshmen now and are playing at the varsity level. I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
So shifting gears to the courts, what's going on with the basketball teams?
The Lady Devils and the Boys Devils have both played a game. The girls lost to Stoneham, and the boys won against Stoneham. Boys won 72-56, and the girls lost 45-38, I think.
Are there any key players that have been standing out early in the season?
For the boys, it's definitely Shane Mahoney. He had a great game. I think he had a double-double, and he's scored 30 points during that game. He went ballistic. As for the girls, senior captain Lily Sturdivant and Giordano looking good after coming off the undefeated season, and they're both captains. And Olivia Penya has stepped up big last game. And we just featured it in our player spotlight for them. We'll take a look at it. There it is.
Hi, I'm Olivia Penya, and this is BNEWS Sports Hub Player Spotlight. Not having fans is a big thing, kind of, because it's like you lose that kind of energy from your supporters and stuff. But our team really helped out with that loss of energy we lost from the stands. We hyped each other up on the bench. We hyped each other up at practice. We were there for each other always. Ever since my freshman year, I kind of stayed vocal on the court, on and off the court. Now I'm definitely going to be more vocal than I was, because I felt as though as an underclassman, not really my place, but now as an upperclassman, I think I'm gonna start to take more charge of being vocal and really help out the team when they need it.
So Liv's our only returning starter. She's already a two-time All-Star coming into her junior year. She's going to have to do a lot for us this year, not just in terms of on the floor, but already seeing her being really vocal. She's taking the time to point things out to younger kids and new players, just making sure that we're all on the same page. She's gonna lead us in every way possible. She's a true facilitator and she's a true leader.
I always wanted to compete against my brother. As everyone knows, my brother Kyle, he played basketball, football, and baseball, so I followed him in those footsteps. But I found a real calling to basketball, and I really started to focus on it more because I played for an AU program called Evolution, and I've been there since second grade, and it's a real family over there.
This year we actually don't have a modified season, which is nice. We're back to normal. It's definitely an adjustment for them to get back to having to focus and be physically prepared 6 days a week. And the masks are a little bit more difficult to get used to this year, as they all played their fall sports without them. They played AAU and Summer League without them, so just kind of getting back into that rhythm and getting on the same page. But they're doing well. It's just nice to kind of, you're almost starting from scratch with so many new players. More than half the team is brand new, regardless of age, just because of last year. So it's nice to just see each day another piece click into place. We're not far from where we need to be, that we're actually, if we can get that chemistry done, we're going to be a really competitive and maybe a really dangerous team this year in the league.
I enjoy working with these girls too on the court, and it's gonna be fun to it's gonna be a fun season this year.
Making sure that we're being competitive, that we're all on the same page, making sure that defensively we're communicating. I think the communication piece is going to be really important this year. Again, with the masks on, now with fans, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be harder for them to hear each other, to hear me from the sideline. So just making sure that if we're over-communicating, then we all know what's going on, and that helps everything else kind of fall into place.
And I think Livy's going to be a great part of the team this year, honestly. She had a great first game, and she has a bright future ahead of her.
She seems very dedicated. That team looks like it's going to be a great competitor. Okay, so moving on, I do understand that the Red Devil wrestling team has had 4 matchups as of this taping. So how is the team doing, and are there any other players we should look for?
The wrestling team is currently 1-3. Their win being against Malden Catholic. The 3 players who had early success is junior Jacob Frost and junior Mike Kaswani, who both picked up their first varsity win. And then senior Ronan Noak, who had 3 pins also. On a side note, this was Ronan's first start since 8th grade, and He returned after 4 years. And junior Mon Kaswati also picked up his first win.
So what other teams compete during the winter season?
Well, there's boys swimming, boys and girls track, boys and girls gymnastics, and the winter guard. One team is the girls gymnastics, who are coming back from an undefeated season. So we want to keep an eye on them and see if they can make it 2 years in a row. We talked with head coach Michelle Gillis, who said one of their goals is to repeat the undefeated season. Although a number of seniors have graduated and they have a couple of underclassmen that can fill their shoes.
Thanks for that, Anthony. Up next is a community spotlight with a look at the Sculpture Park fundraiser. The Sculpture Park was really amazing. I was actually there with the chorus performing. It was super fun, although it was very sunny and also very cold. It was like sunny, like glaring into our eyes, but it was like really cold. But it was fun. It was really fun. The red trousers were amazing.
Yeah, wait, who are the two guys?
There were, I think there were more than two guys. They were the Red Trousers, which is like this performance group. I don't even know how to describe them.
Were they just there with you guys?
Yeah, they performed after us, which is funny because Miss Weller, the chorus director, invited the Red Trebles. So we have like a group called the Red Trebles, which is like a choir group that performs after school, like at the night on Thursday. So shout out to that. But it's, we thought it was funny. We thought it was such a great coincidence because their group was called the Red Trousers and we were the Red Trebles.
Wait, actually, yeah, wait, I love that.
I know, right? It was great. We were like, hey.
Well, it sounded fantastic. It looked fantastic. I'm sure you had a lot of fun.
It was fun. Yes. The band, I'm sure, was also great. I mean, like the clarinet sounded amazing too.
Yes. Finishing off for this episode, Dan Nguyen has a fun first edition of Mad Libs for us, enacted by BCAT's very own Chris Flaherty and Robert Parris.
Hey friend, how are you?
I'm doing good, what's up?
It's Thursday night. It's time for us to socialize recreationally. You want to go bowling?
Absolutely.
Well, hold your horses there, Kimo Sabi. It's a different type of bowling.
Say what?
Yeah, I got all the information here in this pamphlet. Take a gander. Now it's bowling on the commons, and apparently it's become very popular with the young telephones. I think that's a fancy nickname for youths now.
I think it is.
I think so too, but I guess this bowling is a bit different than the bowling us older millennials are used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because instead of 10 pins, you gotta knock down 38.
That's a lot of pins. I don't know if I can handle that many.
I know, but there's different point system. That's like I said, it's different bowling than we're
I know.
used to. So I guess if you knock all 38 pins down at once, it's called a boing.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe because like when you hit the pins, it makes a boing sound. I don't know. Again, friend, I've never experienced this type of bowling before. But also, if you knock the 38 pins down in 2 turns, that's called a zing.
Wow, never heard of that. The only thing I heard about is zing. Zing wings? You never heard of that, friend?
No, maybe we can get some before we go try
I
this new
know!
bowling. That would be great. Now, I'm not sure, but they have cat settlers at the bowling alley.
That math doesn't make any sense.
I don't know if it has anything to do with math. I don't know what cat settlers, like they're cats that have
Yeah, maybe
come
there's
from-
like cats.
cats that have come from
Yeah.
like across the country.
like cats.
And I guess they have couches where like you know how like they line the pins up
Yep.
on like a shelf. They put them on couches here.
That's interesting.
It's pretty laid back. It's a different type of bowling.
I know. Do we get to steal one of the couches?
Well, I think that's illegal. I don't know. I haven't read that part of the brochure. It's a very new thing. I think it's European. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It sounds European.
I don't know, but just make sure, watch out for your eyebrows, because these balls apparently they could hurt your eyebrows.
Maybe we should have second thoughts about this.
Do you want to just go do regular bowling?
Let's go do regular bowling.
Let's go do regular bowling,
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, let's go.
That's all we have for you tonight. Thank you to everyone that has helped out with this episode. Everyone that has made segments, everyone that came on to interview, and of course all of the student and adult crew here at BCAT. We all hope you enjoyed our return of Speak of the Devils, and we will see you all again in March.